Second, some of you may have the habit of reading Scripture regularly. But one thing that's important, and part of our point today, is to allow the Bible to read you. Allow the Word to infiltrate your life. You know, there are great study helps out there for reading the Bible, but that's never where you should start. It's very important that you read the Bible on your own, without anybody else telling you what it's supposed to say. And pastors face this. Every week, I don't know if you've noticed, Sunday comes the same time every week. And it comes around quickly some weeks. Every week I have to have a sermon ready on Sunday. I love it. It's one of my favorite things to do. But there's a temptation that a lot of pastors fight. Well, Sunday's coming. There's a lot of other things going on in the week. And you think, okay, I'm going to preach on 2 Timothy 3:16. I'll go hit the commentary right away so I know what I'm going to say. That's the wrong move every time. No, you open up the Word itself. I read 2 Timothy 3:16. What does it say? Write down my thoughts. What does it say? Read it again. What does it say? Pray about it. Before I ever go to all those other tools that are out there, and we have to do the same thing because there's no substitute for your own observation when it comes to reading Scripture, and it could do amazing things in your life if you read it rather than letting others tell you what it says, right? What others see in the Bible may be helpful, but what you see in Scripture may change your life. There's a difference to how you observe it and what it can do. And I also say this, allow the Bible to read you. One way to get to that is what I was saying before about reading the Bible for the story that's there. I don't get a lot out of devotional books. Now, that's not to say they're bad. I just have not been one who's used them a lot. If you use them, wonderful. That's good. But one of the things that I find is when we sort of pick and choose the verses that we like, then we don't get challenged. We get comforted. And that's all we ever get. So I think it's important to use devotionals, to use what other people say, but I think it's really important to sit down and read the Scripture for itself sometimes and read an entire book, read an entire section by itself. Because what you'll discover is it's not just going to be comfortable, it's going to be challenging at times. It's going to leave you wondering at times, and that's a good thing. I don't get why there's so much killing in Joshua. I don't know about you. It's a discomforting book. I don't get why sometimes everybody was killed in Jericho, but not in Ai or Gilgal. When Jesus says something like, unless you eat my flesh and drink my blood, I don't care when you live, that's a startling statement, isn't it? Even if we get it. We should be deeply unsettled from time to time, but not giving up on Scripture, but letting it read us. Infiltrate our lives and say, why does it say it? Why does it do it that way? Just to give a further comment on that, reading for story. More often than I realize sometimes, I get into a conversation with people about sermon length. And don't worry, I've still got some time this morning. I get into a conversation about sermon length. I usually don't bring it up, but it's interesting. Generationally speaking, this is going to be a big, broad stereotype, but generationally speaking, boomers and above like shorter sermons, is what I've discovered. And that's fine. In fact, the president of our covenant has a joke. He says, I can teach a preaching course in 2 sentences, preach about Jesus and preach about 20 minutes. There you go. That's generally speaking what those generations and up like. Interestingly, and this seems counterintuitive, I mark the very end of Generation X and millennials down. Generally speaking, really like longer sermons if they're content rich. This seems counterintuitive to what we think, doesn't it? We think shorter attention spans, younger people. But if it's content rich, they love a 35, 45-minute sermon. You know why? Because they're starving for the story. They haven't heard it in many cases or in great depth. We need to read it for the story because the Bible is not just designed to justify our desires and our comforts. It's designed to transform you into what you're supposed to be.